I'm Kate.
I'm Sam.
And we are teachers who co-teach. Co-teaching is one of those really tricky things that if you've done it, you know it can be a really delicate balance. I've had the experience doing this with a partner who I didn't really have the opportunity to get to know well, and I've also co-taught the past 2 years with Sam during the summers at our school summer camp. So we thought we would just throw out a few different pointers for you if this is an area that you are looking to explore or that your school has just assigned you to explore. So one of the things that you need to make sure when you start co-teaching is that you really get to know each other's strengths and areas, not of weakness necessarily, but just areas that each individual is more comfortable.
It's definitely really nice to know what your partner is very comfortable with and where their strengths are, because you might just have to admit, like, oh, that's not really my strength, and I'm glad that it's yours, and that really helps.
And I think when we first started co-teaching, it was very organic because we had known each other, we had been colleagues for a while. But if you don't know that individual, and even if you do, it's really helpful to sit down and just chat about that, and even to observe each other for a little bit just to see. And I think we kind of pinpointed early on, I'm a little more type A in the classroom, and Sam is...
I'm very type B.
She's like a dream to work with because there's absolutely no power struggle, but she's very flexible, and we kind of identified early on that I would be the one to set up some of the routines and procedures with the campers, and that worked really well. And I mean, we were totally on board with each other to reinforce those throughout the summer. So identifying those areas. Sam is also fabulous at engineering and science and lots of physical activity since she's a science and PE teacher. So those are areas where she really took over. Same thing with the language arts. That's something where I felt really comfortable.
She can take a 30-second book and turn it into a 30-minute lesson, and it's absolutely amazing.
But these are areas, I mean, we knew exactly what the other person felt more comfortable doing, so we had no problem giving the reins over to that person during those times throughout the day.
Our tip number 2 is really you need to trust the other person. I think the biggest part about going into a co-teaching where it can either be really successful or completely the other way is if you don't have trust. But you also have to go into that relationship as having trust, just like you would with any relationship, just so that you have that foot forward. And that's something that's obviously going to be built up the more you work together. And trusting comes along with when you're talking to parents, students, and administration, always making sure the other person is in the loop so that they don't feel like if you're having a conversation with an administrator, you don't want the other person to feel like they're getting thrown under the bus. So you want to make sure that no matter what, your conversations are always there. Or if you talk to any parent, let that other teacher know that you have spoken to that parent, because they might get thrown into that same conversation because parents are going to go to both of you and you don't want to be thrown off guard.
Absolutely. And one easy way to do this, since so much communication now is done digitally, is to make sure that you're just CCing someone on emails. And even if the initial email wasn't a CC'd copy to each other, just making sure that you tag that person on there so that they're part of the conversation. They can read through all parts of the communication so they're not left out on anything is really important.
For sure. Our next tip, this kind of branches into what our third tip was, and that's the communication, the emails, those quick conversations, and from time to time that you can get to have with each other, because there's going to be a point where you're both busy and you're going to talk to a student. That same student is going to go to your partner, and the easiest way to solve this is, well, what did Miss Kate say, or what did Miss Sam say? And just kind of figure out what the other teacher says, and that puts the kid in the place of being like, oh, that teacher did say no, so maybe I shouldn't do that.
Making sure that you have communicated all of the decisions that you make, any interaction that you've had with parents, even if they just give you a quick tip, oh, this kid didn't sleep well last night, just bringing your co-teacher in on that to let them know gives them the information so that if the teacher then discusses it with the parent later in the day, they don't look kind of foolish and not have the full information. And I mean, kids, they are so much smarter than we are. They will try to pit you against each other. So I remember as a kid going to my dad and asking him permission to do things. It was always the same answer, go ask your mother. It's kind of the same thing. We finally, after working together for weeks and weeks, we realized that the default answer had to be, what did Ms. Sam say? what did Miss Kate say?
Mm-hmm.
It had to be going back to that, because if you don't, you're going to get yourself into trouble.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't check with the teacher first, make sure that you check in with the kid on that and double check with each other.
And the last tip that we have for you today is have fun, because you don't always get to work with a co-teacher, and you don't always get to work with someone as wonderful as your co-teacher. So this is a really good time to be able to have fun with that person, and you get to laugh and have inside jokes, and those are things that are just going to carry with you forever.
And help get you through the day, because when you're in the thick of it, sometimes we all know it gets rough in there, but it's also amazing. It also, having another adult in there really helps you to highlight those amazing moments of growth in your students, and also those really silly, funny moments that sometimes you don't appreciate on your own, but having another adult in there really helps bring that out. So enjoy each other. Like us, subscribe, and tune in. If you have any other tips for working with a co-teacher, drop some comments below. We're always looking for new ideas. Thanks so much.
Thank you.